smash that like button and that subscribe button so you'll be notified when another amazing episode comes out. And we got a bunch of action-packed news to touch up on today. UFC fight night coming up this weekend. Had some great basketball series finals the other night. NFL news, college football news. Yeah, let's jump into it. So first, we're gonna do a pre-fight breakdown of UFC Fight Night, Covington versus Woodley. And it should be a pretty good card. We're gonna do a breakdown of the main card. Let's see, that's starting out at middleweight with Kevin Holland against Darren Stewart, and Kevin Holland's looked pretty good. I like his stand up. He's got some decent takedown defense. He's a pretty good all around fighter. I'm gonna take him over Darren Stewart. Stewart's got some power, so there's no telling what could happen. But I think Holland has a better all around game wherever it goes. Our next fight of the evening will be Mackenzie Dern versus Randa Marcos at strawweight, and Mackenzie Dern had a lot of hoopla coming into the UFC. Has some pretty good jiu-jitsu pedigree. Her father's a high-level black belt, and so she has just had a lot of hoopla, and that hype train kind of got derailed a little bit when she got a loss, but she's snapped back from that, and she's had some all right fights, and yeah, I think she should be able to pull this out. Marcos is a veteran. She's proven that she's good, but it's just once it goes to the ground, Dern's just on another level. And yeah, I just feel like she's going to be able to pull this out. So yeah, Mackenzie Dern should be able to pull off the victory. Our next fight of the evening will be Johnny Walker against Ryan Spahn. And Johnny Walker, he had a lot of hoopla surrounding him he had a lot of hoopla and a lot of hype. It went on like a 3-fight win streak there, and when he came into the UFC, but then that kind of gotten derailed. He had a couple losses there, but he's still. The thing about MMA is, losses don't really mean that much. Losses just help you improve. And so, that it's probably good for his career that he had those losses and didn't just get thrown to the wolves and get into a title shot that he wasn't going to be prepared for. So, yeah, this should be a good fight. Ryan Spahn's good, too. I think his last fight against Sam Alvey, he could have finished it, but just couldn't really, couldn't pull the trigger and land that perfect shot. But you can't really fault him because Sam Alvey's a tough dude. But this should be a really good fight. Almost a pick 'em to me. I think Johnny Walker's favored a little bit, but yeah, this should be definitely a good fight. I'll take Johnny Walker since I got to take somebody. But it definitely should be an all around pretty good fight. Our next fight of the evening will be Hamzat Chimaev against Gerald Meerschaert. And Chimaev, he's looked amazing. He's completely dominated his two opponents so far in the UFC. So this will be interesting to see. This will be a welterweight or middleweight. No, this will be a middleweight. Yeah, I guess he keeps moving. Chimaev keeps moving around between middleweight and welterweight. And but yeah, it should be. Can't pick against Chimaev yet. And Meerschaert still probably. He's not that high level or anything yet. So they're kind of just bring Chimaev along, see what he can do. And he has looked dominant so far on the ground, completely dominant. Like a bigger version of Khabib, really. Definitely. It has looked pretty good. But yeah, so we'll see what he has. Our co-main of the evening will be Donald Cerrone against Nico Price, and this should be a war. I don't know how much more Donald Cerrone has in the tank. He's on a four-fight losing streak, and he hasn't looked that great in some of his last few fights. But I mean, you can never count him out. He's always tough. So until he hangs up his gloves, he's always in a fight. And Nico Price, I mean, he's always in a war. I mean, I think he's only had like one decision in his whole career, and that wasn't even in the UFC. All his fights are finishes, whether it's him being finished or his opponent. So this should definitely be a war. Um, I'm gonna go with Donald Cerrone. He's actually the underdog in this fight, but I just feel like he's gonna step up. Unless there's nothing left, unless he's done. If he loses this fight, I think this might be saying and not taking anything away from Nico Price because he's tough, but if he loses this fight, that's kind of it for Donald Cerrone. He might not even hang him up after this fight, but if he loses this, it's kind of the end of it. But it should be a war, whether it's on the ground or stand up. This should be an amazing fight. And that brings us to the main event of the evening: Colby Covington against Tyron Woodley. And this is, I mean, they've been talking mess to each other for a while now. Both, I don't think Woodley's still with American Top Team anymore, and Covington definitely isn't. But I mean, since their days there, they've been talking mess to each other. This is all going to be about which Woodley shows up, because Woodley has not looked that good in his last two fights. First, he lost the belt to Usman and was completely dominated, and then was completely dominated against Gilbert Burns. And I mean, those are two high level guys, but just to be dominated the way he was. Uh, and I mean, Covington's got a similar style to both of them, where he's able to push a good pace, but then also mix in the wrestling. And if he's able to do that to Woodley, it's gonna be a long night for Woodley. I mean, you gotta want Woodley to win. I mean, Covington's just a really easy guy not to like. I mean, it's all that MAGA crap. I mean, that's just, yeah, he's a really easy guy to detest, and so yeah, I mean, gonna be pulling for Woodley. But if he shows up with the same game plan of trying to throw one big shot and mix in some takedowns, it might be a long night for him, because Covington, I mean, whatever you can say about him, the guy's a fighter. I mean, he puts on an amazing pace, throws a lot of punches, and that's been the game plan to beat Woodley. I mean, Woodley cannot keep up with that pace. And I mean, sure, if he lands a shot, I mean, he can put the lights out at any second. But I mean, Covington just puts that pace on him. And I mean, I hope Woodley wins, but it's just looking like Covington is just going to probably just be able to put together a pace that's just going to be too much for Woodley. And so I don't know, gonna have to go against my heart on this and go with Covington. But so then let's see, we'll jump to some NBA basketball action. And the first game of the evening was the Heat against the Celtics in Game One, and it was a back and forth game all night long. It was the Celtics were looking good there for a while, but then the Heat would just start making threes left and right, and yeah, it just went back and forth. It goes to overtime, and uh, Celtics down by two. Less than 5 seconds left. Tatum goes up for a dunk, and Bam Adebayo makes one of the best defensive plays in the playoff history. Really, I mean, it looked like that Tatum was going to get an easy basket to tie the game, to force it to a double overtime, and Adebayo made an amazing block. So that was a nice win for the Heat. Still, I mean, I'm a Celtics fan, so I gotta hope they pull it out and win this next game. I mean, they looked like the better team to me, but we'll see. I mean, the Heat were able to pull it out, and then in the second game of the evening, the Clippers Denver in Game 7, And the Clippers, I mean, they were looking pretty good there for a little while, but then they just completely choked, and Denver was able to pull it out. Yeah, I mean, completely dominated at the end. Kawhi choked, Paul George choked. Just all these. I mean, we were hearing all season long about how the Clippers just were this team of dogs, and they just really didn't show up when they were supposed to. I mean, it was a lot of people had them picked to go to win the championship, at least to go there, and then they don't even make the Western Conference Finals. So that was pretty disappointing for them. So we're not going to get that all LA Western Conference Finals big game or big series that we had thought we were going to get. But hey, that's what can I say? That's sometimes how the cookie crumbles. So we have in the Western Conference Finals, we're gonna have Denver against the Lakers. So we'll see what that should be a pretty good matchup. I mean, Jokic has looked pretty good. Is he going to be able to handle Anthony Davis, or is Anthony Davis going to be able to handle him? I mean, and it might not even fall like that, because I mean, like the last series since Houston played small ball, it kind of made it so JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard weren't even really needed in the series that much. They didn't even get to play all that much. But now that Denver actually plays with a more conventional offense and has a more conventional center, they'll get implemented more, and so we'll see what happens. But I mean, it's looking. I mean, I guess the Celtics have to pull it out too, but might be a Lakers versus Celtics final. So we'll see how that goes. Let's see in NFL action, we had a couple of Monday night football games, and we had what was it? We had Ben Roethlisberger making his comeback, and he looked pretty good for his first game in a year. And let's see, the first game of the evening was the Steelers versus Giants, and yeah, Ben Roethlisberger looked pretty good. The Steelers defense looked really good. They completely shut down Saquon Barkley, and I mean, a lot of that had to do with how bad the Giants' offensive line is, and they were just completely stacking the box. I mean, they were showing Daniel Jones no respect, and but I mean, that's how the NFL is. If you can't mix it up, then teams aren't going to. They're gonna stack the box, and I mean, so the Giants are gonna have to do something to get Saquon some room. And then our late game was the Titans versus the Broncos, and yeah, the Titans were able to get a last second field goal by Steven Gostkowski after missing 3 field goals and an extra point. So I mean, he was having a bad day, but then he was able to make that field goal and pull out the win. So yeah, it was a nice win for the Titans. So we'll see what they have for the rest of the season. And let's see, what else do we have? We got some college football action. The Big Ten has decided that they're going to start their season in the end of October. So I'm not even sure how many games it's gonna be, or if they're just gonna all cram them all together. But so I mean, maybe we'll have somewhat of a college football season after all. I mean, we've had the ACC playing, and I mean, there's been some I think the SEC is supposed to start playing soon. But so we'll see what happens, and with this college football season. But you can find us on Trauma Television on YouTube, because this is a Trauma Television production. You can find me on Trauma Television on Facebook, at Big Scary on Facebook, and at Big Scary on Twitter. And as Martin Luther King said, the arc of the moral universe.